Good morning. I welcome you all for the online basic cancer biology course. I am Dr. Ashok Kumar Pandurangan, Associate Professor who is working in the School of Life Sciences, BS Abdur Rahman, Crescent Institute of Science and Technology, Vandalur. So before I go into the course detail, I just want to tell something about myself. I completed my PhD in the year 2011 in the University of Madras, Guindy campus. After my PhD, I worked as a postdoctoral fellow in the USA and Malaysia for almost 7 years. I have total 10 years of research experience, and I published around 45 research and review articles in peer-reviewed journals. I also published 6 book chapters, and I acquired grants to do cancer research. So first of all, how to define a cancer? What is a cancer? So cancer is nothing but it's an uncontrolled cell growth which also have a quality of invasiveness. So invasiveness is nothing but from the primary site of tumor, some tumor cells detach and which will go and bind to the other organs and causes secondary tumor. So generally cancer can be benign or malignant. So benign is nothing but there must be an uncontrolled growth of cells, but there is no invasive property. But in malignance they are highly invasive, and 90% of the cancer deaths are due to metastasis. So cancer can affect most of the tissues in the body. So it is generally believed that all cancers were derived from single cell that have acquired characteristics of continually dividing in an unrestrained manner and invading the surrounding tissues. On the right side I have given an image that is human melanoma cell which is undergoing cell division, which is in confocal image. So it will clearly indicate the cell division. So this is a roadmap to a normal cell, how a normal cell will be converted into a malignant tumor cell. So a normal cell which get mutated, and these mutations leads to a normal cell to an initiated cell which undergo proliferation, which leads to a rapid tumor growth. This will be converted into normal cell to a tumor cell. These mutations will convert the tumor into malignant tumor, where some of the tumor cells from the malignant tumor detach and enter into the bloodstream, and which will be circulated and go and bind to the other organs, cause secondary tumor. This is called metastasis. So in this image I have given what are the differences between a normal cell and a cancerous cell. So the top blue lines were the characters of normal cell, and the below red are cancerous cells. So what is the first difference means? Many cells that continue to grow and divide. In the normal cell they have a limited growth, limited proliferation, but in cancerous cells there is no limit, it will keep on grow. And the second property is the size and shapes of the cells was unique, and it is same in the normal cell, but in terms of cancerous cells there is size and shapes are vary. And the nucleus is larger and darker in the cancerous cells when compared to the normal cell. Also, the abnormal number of chromosomes arranged in a disorganized fashion in the cancerous cells, which is highly organized in the normal cell. So the last quality is you can see the boundary in the normal cells, but you cannot see a proper boundary in the cancerous cell. So to the classification, in the first slide I discussed about what is benign and malignant. We will see some more detail. So benign is rarely life-threatening. In terms of life-threatening, benign is very rare, but malignant is highly life-threatening tumors. So benign grow within the well-defined capsule, which their size is very limited. But malignant, when they grow robust and they detach, and which will invade the nearby tissues as well as the distant sites as well. So in this image I have given benign and malignant tumors. You see the normal cells and the benign tumor is completely distinguished. So there is no detachment in the benign tumor, but in the malignant tumors, some of the cells which escape from the tumor and go and invade to the secondary sites. So benign tumors, majority of the benign tumors are primary. They are harmless to their host, and 9 out of 10 women showing benign breast tumors, tissue changes. Benign bone tumors have higher prevalence than the malignant bone tumors. So the exact cause for benign tumors were unknown. It was believed that the mutations that occur in P10 gene and APC gene may cause benign tumors. So this is a difference between, what are the differences between benign tumors and malignant tumors. Benign tumors were expansive, compressing and adjacent tissues. Invasive, malignant tumors are invasive, replacing the adjacent tissues. Benign tumors do not reoccur when you excise or surgically remove the benign tumors. It won't reoccur. But in malignant tumors, even if you excise completely, it may reoccur. Benign tumors do not metastasis, but malignant tumors may metastasis. The benign tumors were slow growth and malignant tumors were very fast in growth. Benign tumors do not cause cachexia and malignant tumors may cause cachexia. So cachexia is nothing but it's general weakness and wasting of body due to severe chronic illnesses, especially like cancerous conditions. One more classification of cancer is based on the cell type that affects. So based on the cell type where the cancer can originate, it was divided into 2 types majorly. One is the cancer that divides from epithelial cells and the cancer that arise from non-epithelial cells. So around 80% of all the cancers that were derived from epithelial cells, especially the carcinomas of breast, ovary, cervix, prostate, lung, pancreas and colon, all these type of cancer were based on or derived from epithelial cells. In the non-epithelial cells, the cancers that arise from non-epithelial cells were categorized into 3 different types. One is the cancer that derive from connective or supportive tissues, the cancer that derive from hematopoietic tissues, the cancer that derive from central and peripheral nervous system. So in the cancer that derive from connective tissues or supportive tissues were designated as sarcomas. Bone, cartilage, muscle, blood vessels, they are all called as sarcomas. The cancer that derive from hematopoietic tissues, they called as lymphomas and leukemias. So it's 2 types of cancer that derive from hematopoietic origin. And the gliomas, neuroblastomas, schwannomas. A top global causes of death survey was taken in the year 2017 by some most common causes. The first cause was occupied by cardiovascular diseases. About 31.8% of the people who die because of cardiovascular diseases. The second position was occupied by cancer. So about 17.1% of the people who die because of cancer. For example, if 100 people, the survey was taken for 100 people, among that 100 people, 17 people used to die because of cancer. Now you understand the seriousness of the problem, how serious is the cancer. So let us take some cancer statistics in India. How serious is the cancer in India? One woman dies because of cervical cancer every 8 minutes in India. For every 2 women newly diagnosed with breast cancer, and 1 woman dies of it in India. So breast cancer was the #1 prevalent cancer among women in India. As many as 2,500 persons die every day because of tobacco related diseases in India. Tobacco was the #1 killer in India especially. Smoking, that accounts for 1 in 5 deaths among men and 1 in 20 deaths among women. This accounts about estimation 9,30,000 deaths in the year 2010. The estimated number of people living with this disease is around 2.5 million. 2.5 million is 1 million is equal to 10 lakh. So around 25 lakh people used to live with this dreadful disease. So every year new cancer patients registered was over 7 lakhs, and the cancer related deaths were 5,56,400. Imagine how serious threat the cancer is to the mankind. The deaths in the age group between 30 to 69 is about 3,95,400. Among men was 2,00,100 and women was 1,95,300. So this age group is very critical age group, 30 to 69. So about 97% of all cancer related death, the total number is 3,95,400. So cancers of oral cavity, that is the oral cancer, and lung cancer in male, and cervical cancer and breast cancer in female, this accounts for 50% of all cancer related deaths in India. Among all type of cancers, these 4 cancers occupy 50% of cancer related deaths in India. So in this slide I have given cancer statistics in India, that is 5 major cancers that affect men and women in India. For men, the first position occupied by oral cancer. The second one was lung cancer. Both was caused by the tobacco usage. And the third one is stomach cancer. The fourth one is colorectal cancer. And the fifth one is pharynx. In women, the breast cancer occupied #1 position, and cervical cancer is #2. Colorectal was the third one, and the ovarian was the fourth one. Finally, the oral cancer. In 2012 worldwide scenario, 14.1 million new cancer cases were registered, 8.2 million cancer related deaths, and 32.6 million people living with cancer. So I already told you 1 million is equal to 10 lakhs. Let us go back to the history of the name cancer, how they named it cancer. So the first mention of cancer was documented in Egypt around 1600 BC, was before Christ was born. The Edwin Smith papyrus found in 18600 in Egypt, he described 8 cases of ulcers of breast, but they are not sure what it is. They have no clue whether is it a cancer or something. They mentioned it as ulcer of breast. So the first doctors wrote the mysterious disease, there is no treatment is available. That is the sentence they wrote in their document. Father of medicine, Hippocrates, who lived in the era of 460 to 370 BC, he described cancer and gave it the Greek name carcinos. So carcinos denotes crab. Even nowadays the astrologists also they used to denote cancer as crab. You know very well about it. And the Roman philosopher Celsius, who lived in the era of 25 BC to 50 AD, he translated into Latin as cancer. And next, the Greek physician Galen, who lived in 130 to 200 AD, he used the Greek term onkos. The onkos here, they denote a mass of cells or swelling. They know only swelling. The direct translation for swelling is Greek. Greek term is called onkos. So that's why they called as onkos, to refer the malignant tumors. In the 1500s, the word tumor started to be used. So it was derived from the Latin word called tumere. This means swelling. So let us see what are the causes of cancer in history. How people believed the cancer was arrived or arised. So the first theory came from, or first hypothesis came from the ancient Egyptians. They blamed that the cancers were given by the gods naturally. So they are believing that it was arised because of God. So after that theory, the humoral theory was proposed. This was proposed by the father of medicine, I told you already, Hippocrates. He thought that the body has 4 humors. Humors here he refers the body fluids, the 4 major body fluids, the blood, phlegm, yellow bile and black bile. Either it is too much or too little amount of these humors or these body fluids which causes disease. Especially he later said that an excess of black bile in various body sites was thought of to cause cancer. Later the Galen, he believed this theory and it remained unchallenged standard through the Middle Ages of over 1300 years. About 1300 years everybody is believing that an excess black bile is the main reason for the cause of cancer. So why it was believed like that, nobody disproved this theory means, during that period, to study the body of a person who died, to do autopsy, it was prohibited because of the religious reasons. Next theory, which was proposed by German pathologist Johannes Müller, that is called Blastema Theory, in the year 1838. He demonstrated that the cancer is made up of cells and not fluid. This is the first time they identified that the cancer which is made up of cells, not body fluids. But he believed that cancer cells did not come from the normal cell. So he believed that the cancer was not arised from normal cells. He believed that it was from cells. It is made up of cells, but it is not originated from the normal cells. Müller also proposed that the cancer cells developed from budding elements that is called blastema. So blastema means in between the normal tissues. So he believed that the cancer arose in between the normal tissues called blastema. His student, the father of cellular pathology, Rudolf Virchow, in the year 1821 to 1902, he lived in that period. He determined that all cells, including cancer cells, are derived from other cells. This was in continuation to the Blastema theory. Next comes the trauma theory. So trauma theory was disproved, but it was believed for some times. From the late 800 until 1920, the trauma was thought by some cause of cancer. Somebody believed that the trauma was the reason to cause cancer. This was disproved by people. They tried to make an injury in the experimental animals to cause cancer, but these animals failed to develop cancer. They made an injury in the animal, but they failed to develop cancer. So there onwards they believed that the trauma theory was it was not a right theory. Next theory was the infectious disease theory. This is one of the crucial theory which was arrived in the 17th and 18th century. So as like viral diseases and bacterial diseases, people believe that the cancer is also contagious. Now cancer is on the non-communicable diseases, you know very well, like cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, these are all non-communicable diseases. It won't spread through person to person. But that time they believed it was contagious. The first cancer hospital in France was forced to move from the city in the year 1779 because of people was afraid that the cancer will spread to them to all over the city. So they forced to close the hospital, cancer hospital. Although the human cancer itself is not contagious, we know that certain viruses and bacteria and parasites can cause a person's risk of developing cancer. This part we're going to see little later on the part 2 video. We will discuss about how these viruses can cause cancer. I will give with some evidence. We will discuss about proto-oncogenes. That time we talk about how these viruses can cause cancer. So this was the old era. Previously we discussed about the old era. The modern development of cancer causes where we're going to discuss hereafter. So in the 1915 only the modern era starts. Katsuboro Yamakiwa and Koichi Ichikawa at Tokyo University, Japan, they induced cancer in laboratory animals. Laboratory animals, you know very well, the rat, mice, rabbit, guinea pig, these are all called as laboratory animals. So this group of people, these two people, they tried it in the rabbit. They apply coal tar to the rabbit skin and this was developed tumor. So this was published consecutive year. This paper was published and this is the first proof that chemical can cause cancer. And later years the tobacco was rediscovered as the most destructive source of chemical carcinogen which is known to man. I have given some known chemical carcinogens. These are all nowadays even currently people are using, the scientists are using to induce cancer in the laboratory animals. The azoxymethin and 1,2 dimethylhydrazine, these two were used to induce colorectal cancer in the rodents, that is mouse and rats. Benzopyrin is used to induce lung cancer. N-nitroso-methylamine, which is used to induce liver cancer. 7,2-dimethylbenzandrosin, which is used to induce breast cancer in female rats and mice. So the model development of cancer causes will go to the viral carcinogenesis. So I already told you in the previous slide, a virus also can cause cancer. So in the year 1911, Peyton Ross is the first person at the Rockefeller Institute in New York. He described a cancer called sarcoma in chicken, which is caused by a virus. After this discovery, the virus was named as Ross sarcoma virus. He was awarded the Nobel Prize for that work in the year 1968. So it was one of the very important findings of science. Several viruses are now linked to the cancers in human. For example, I have given the list, so I am going to read one by one. The long-standing infection with hepatitis B and C viruses. If you infected with hepatitis B and C viruses, that can cause liver cancer. And people who are affected by HIV, they have a high chance of developing Kaposi sarcoma and non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Then another important virus that causes cervical cancer, that is called human papilloma virus, which is known recent times. It causes cervical, vulva, vagina and anus. So the HPV vaccine is available nowadays to prevent from HPV induced cancer. In the developing world, nearly 20% of the cancers are due to this infectious viruses such as hepatitis B, C and HPV, that is human papilloma viruses. Only in the developing countries, not in the developed countries. Developed countries, the HPV vaccines is available and people used to take this hepatitis B vaccines, so they stay away from these viruses. So now we have a new theory, so that is cancer is a disease of the genome. So in the year 1953, Watson and Crick elucidated the structure and function of DNA. So the new course, the new thought is born, that is molecular biology. As the understanding of DNA and genes increased, it was clear that chemicals, radiations, or the introduction of new DNA sequences by viruses. You know, viruses, when they infect humans, they inject their genome, their DNA into the human genome. So this may cause DNA damage or mutation. So this damage was found mapped to the same genome affected in the families who had hereditary predisposition to cancer. That is 10 to 15% of the cancer was caused by this hereditary. Most of the things that caused cancer, that is carcinogens, the chemicals which cause cancer is called as carcinogens, cause genetic damage, that is mutation, that look lot like the mutation that could be inherited and could result in the same type of cancer if more mutations were introduced. During the year 1970s, scientists discovered two important families of genes related to cancer. One is oncogene and the second one is tumor suppressor gene. So this is a typical picture where these chemicals, viruses and radiations induce DNA damage, that is mutations. These mutations will be there in the cells and which is accumulated and proliferate, and that will be transformed into normal cell to the cancerous cell. This is a typical mechanism. So two cancer family genes I told you in the previous slide. One is oncogene and the tumor suppressor gene. We're going to see in detail about these two, what is oncogene, what is tumor suppressor gene, how it is activated, all these details in the part 2 of the video. And if you have any questions in this part, please email me at ashokkumar.sls@crescent.education so that I will respond your questions. I will respond to your questions, whatever the questions you raised. So feel free to ask me whatever you like. So these are the references I used for my study. So thank you so much. I will see you in the part 2 of the video. Thank you.